Well, welcome back. We are excited again for another week of kind of talking about different things at Crosspoint Community Church. We hope that this series has been beneficial to you to understand exactly what we do at the church and kind of give you a vision for certain things. But we also told you these are kind of just scratching the surface of different things that are happening at Crosspoint. If you ever do have any questions about what's going on or what's happening, please ask those questions. We want you to communicate well with us, and that's part of what we're going to be talking about today is a little bit of communication. But also, before we start with that, we want to communicate to you just about financial things, some things going on financially. And it's always interesting when you talk about money at a church, but money is important. It does take money to do the ministry that we do. We don't talk about money a whole lot, whether that's right, wrong, or indifferent, whatever that is. But it is important. It is vital. And how we handle money is important in our own lives, but also very important in the church because this is God's ministry. This is His money. And so we handle that. We want you to be comfortable with, have an understanding about. And so that's why we're talking about that this morning. So when you think about just the finances of the church, I'm going to turn it over to Michael and let him just talk about it just a little bit.
Well, I think our verse that we picked for this, Matthew 6:24, about not serving two masters, is our ultimate heart that we want to communicate to people, that we don't serve money and we don't want them to serve money. That their heart is what God wants, and we want their heart to exalt Him. But He also knows that our heart and our money somehow are tied together, and when we give away that which He's given to us, there's a lot of value and meaning for everybody, and it's a little bit different for everybody. So I think it's why it's a sensitive subject, and we just want it to be ultimately about Him and their relationship with God. We want people to know that we're responsible with their money, and that we have prayerfully set up systems to address it. But for me, and the way that my wife and I handle our family's finances, I think about 2 Samuel 24, when David wanted to build an altar to the Lord in order to rectify a situation, and someone saw who he was and was like, hey, I just want to give it to you. And David said, no, I'm not going to sacrifice something to my God that doesn't cost me anything. So for me, I recognize that there is a request upon me and a desire for me so that it would be a sacrifice of what I've done, and I don't expect everything to come to me, and so that's just my heart with that, and I think the other verse we have of 1 Timothy 6 on how it connects with finances and with communication, I think it'll be a really good discussion with this.
So the question might be that you have, well, how do we handle certain situations or certain financial issues at Crosspoint Community Church? And so I'm going to let Danny talk about a little bit what we do on a Sunday morning so that you know when we take up an offering, how's that handled, and different things like that. So I'm going to let Danny talk about that.
Yeah, I think what we're going to do this morning would be we'll follow the money, and as we take up the offering, we have the ushers to take up the offering, as you all know, and then what you don't know maybe is how it's handled after that. So the money's taken, we take it back. Two people goes back, we'll take it and count it. It's all counted out. Nobody really looks at anything as far as who gives what, where. But anyhow, that comes through. It all goes into gets back to Nicole. And by the way, I want to mention the ones that's on the finance committee. And if you have questions about how things are handled, then any of us could maybe help you with that. The one that's on the finance committees is Mike McKee, Phil Withington, Ann Heidemann, myself, and Nicole is the treasurer. And she does most of the work, and we really give a shout out to her. It's really mostly appreciated. Now Now, to get back to how we follow the money and how it goes through, she'll take that and makes the deposits and everything that needs to be done. And then as the expenses come in, then the checks are written. Nicole will write the checks, but then it comes back to the finance committee, and two people will be signing off on those. We look at them and have kind of a check and balance type system there. So I just want to throw out also that as time goes on in our church, there's going to be a larger area for this to expand in. So anyone that wants to really feel like they can contribute to this area and wants to give their time, then we really want to know about it. So get back with us and let us know who you are. Thank you.
The Bible speaks a lot about just how we handle money, being good stewards not only of our money, but you've heard us say, and it's not original with us, where you talk about your time, talents, and your treasures, and just being good stewards of those things. And the treasures that you have, we're not just talking about money here, we're also just talking about everything that God has entrusted you with. So I think it's important and vital for us to understand how we steward that. I think it's understandable how your church takes money, uses that money. We do have limits on certain spending. Anything for the staff that maybe a certain amount is going to be passed through the finance committee and approved by them before we move forward on anything like that. There's also many times when we bring things before you. When we talk about money for something maybe larger, like when we get to a building or different things like that, there'll be a lot of things that you'll hear that will be passed through you as the people also to understand more and more about what we do, where we give, and how we handle our money. And so we want you to be very secure in that, comfortable with that. And so if you have questions or even if you have concerns about what's going on financially at Crosspoint Community Church, it's open book. There is nothing that's going to be hidden from you. This is a transparent organization. I know you hear that from maybe different places that you wonder if it really is, but this is going to be transparent. We'll open the books for you. You can see everything and where things were spent, how things were spent. We want you to be comfortable with that and secure in that and understand that we want to be good stewards with the money that God is giving us so that we can further His gospel and His kingdom. And we want to communicate all that very well to you. So that kind of slides into our last part. We wanted to kind of tag this on a little bit with this is communication. Communication is key, and especially in the world that we live in. Communication is so vital for any organization. And I think Michael talked about even, maybe using the word branding or different things like that to where what does come to people's mind, maybe they see your logo or our names at the stadium, and I don't know if you want to speak to that at all.
Well, I think there's so many different avenues to communicate. People on Facebook, people on Twitter. I don't think we have a Snapchat or an Instagram right now, and may need to think about how we can get those all tied together. But we did, just tying in with this, we did have to bring the request to the finance committee about whether we wanted to advertise at the high school booster club and have commercials and kind of get into the kind of the capitalist society that we're in, where you pay money to get your word out. And I think it helps. I think people who are in the stands who see Crosspoint going across the screen there during a football game, or people who see our name in the paper as being a supporter of this project, that there's a pride there. But then also it's like, wow, I just thought WTC or Vanderbilt would be there. But there's a church doing advertising, and we want to proclaim the gospel, and then we want people to feel confident that we're not going to back down, that when things get hard, and as you can tell in our culture, tying into Twitter and Facebook, there's so much vitriol and spitting out. Are you going to get something positive out there? we're not going to get into debates with people with our Facebook page. We're not going to cut people down on Facebook. And we're developing a regimented way of what do we communicate on? How are we going to respond to things? And right now, hopefully people see it. It's just information going out, and we're not setting out our agenda through Facebook.
I want to just comment a little bit about that too. And I'm from a little bit of a different generation, so we have to talk. We have to speak out, and we have to really, if you have a question, we're open. I mean, that's what we're all about. But come forward, and we'll be glad to try to answer every question. And so, not only communicating through Facebook and all the other stuff that we have, but also just sitting down and talking things out makes a big difference. Sometimes when you can't, you put it into words and the words don't come out quite the way you want it to come out. So communicating directly is one way we can do this. And
to that, it was on my mind a minute ago. The 95 Theses was hammered on the wall 500 years ago this year, and that was the Facebook of the time. He posted something, and you read some of it, and you can tell Martin Luther even changed a lot of his theology from what he nailed on there. If you've actually read the 95 Theses, there's some things that he's like, oh, is that really? He's like, he recanted some of that later. But really all he was doing was saying, we need to dialogue about these things. He wasn't protesting. He was like, these are things I think we need to talk about. And it wasn't an attack. But because he did post it, he had to deal with the backlash. I think a lot of people with Facebook and Twitter are posting things and not thinking about what the actual face-to-face interaction. Martin Luther was expecting it. I'm not sure people expect it. And we want to talk about these things. It's why we do small groups, and that's why we communicate openness.
And communication face-to-face is vital. I mean, Matthew 18 definitely speaks deeply into that, on how you're supposed to handle maybe some concerns that you have, maybe even some different things that you have questions about, that you go to that person face-to-face, and you'll be surprised at how that may alleviate things very quickly before you add anything else into it, before you put anything out on social media or anything like that you actually go to the person face-to-face. And if you can't talk to someone face-to-face, maybe it's not the best time for you to put something out on social media anyway. But we want you to know that we have lots of different avenues of communication that we want you to get plugged into, whether that be texting, whether it be email, whether it be Facebook. We do have a Twitter account. We do have, and we're getting an Instagram account. We do have that. We are, but then face-to-face, Sunday morning is a huge way that we communicate with our information table, and also just the announcements that we have, and different things like that. But if you have an interest in that, we'd also love for you to come on board and just talk to us about, if you would like to help us in any of those areas, come and talk to me, and we'll talk to you about some different things that are happening. Even with audio-visual, these videos that we're putting together, there may be opportunities that if you love putting videos together, and we like to communicate on Sunday morning even through videos, before the sermon starts, a certain video or certain things like that. If you're the person that likes to do that, that's your skill, that's your talent, that's your gift, that you use that for the glory of God, and we can help hopefully shepherd you in that direction, and maybe put together some really neat videos that are really close to home and not just far away. So there's lots of avenues here for communication and ways that we'd love for you to get involved. The scriptures for this week, Matthew 6:24, that goes right back to the heart of you can't serve two masters, God, money, all those different things. And the Bible does speak very deeply and strongly about money. We know a lot of different things that are going on there. And God has a lot to say about how we handle our money, so we encourage you to dive into that. But also then, what have we been entrusted? What has been deposited into us, which we thought that flowed pretty well together with communication. So 1 Timothy 6:17-21, what's been entrusted to us, what's been deposited to us. As we reach out in different ways, in the ways that we communicate, we will not compromise the gospel. This will not be a time where we will take anything away from the gospel or add anything to the gospel. Jesus plus something, not the gospel. Jesus minus something, not the gospel. It is about Jesus and the center of who he is and the core of everything that we do here at Crosspoint Community Church. We want to make sure that you understand that what's been entrusted to us, what's been deposited to us, we want to be good stewards of as we go forward with our money, but also with our communication. So I hope that you have a great week, and we hope to see you next time.